Delivery driver opens the wrong door and regrets. What begins as a simple pizza delivery turns into a chilling story no driver ever forgets. Daniel, a quiet veteran turned delivery driver, follows an order to an abandoned house. But when the door creaks open and someone stands waiting inside, the ordinary shifts into something far more unsettling. Other drivers whisper about the same place, the same words, the same pale figure. Some battles are fought in silence, and some doors should never be opened. Watch until the end. You'll never look at a delivery the same way again. Delivery driver story. Creepy delivery driver tale. Scary pizza delivery story. Abandoned house story. Suspenseful storytelling. Cinematic scary story. True urban legend. Chilling delivery story. Horror storytelling. YouTube. Mysterious delivery driver. Scary delivery experience. Suspense story narration. Haunted house delivery story. Delivery driver horror tale. Cinematic suspense story. See. The night began with a knock, a single rap against weathered wood, and the door of an abandoned house creaked open. And there, in the darkness, someone stood. The driver's heart stopped. The house had no power, no signs of life, not even the faintest glow from a candle. And yet, the shadow of a man leaned into the doorway as if expecting him. "Pizza?" the voice asked, low and almost amused. For a split second, the driver thought of turning and running, but his car was parked across the cracked driveway, and the figure blocked his path. The box in his hand felt like it weighed 100 pounds. It should have been a simple delivery, but some doors should never open. His name was Daniel, 37 years old, a man who had seen more than most, though he carried it quietly. He had once worn a uniform, served his country in places where sandstorms replaced skies and silence could mean survival. He had come home, but home did not feel the same. To pay his bills, he drove for a local pizza chain, clocking endless miles under fluorescent streetlights. Most nights were uneventful, families tipping him at the door, college kids fumbling with spare change, quiet neighbors thanking him with weary smiles. But some nights tested the soul. Daniel had lived 2 lives. In his first, he was a soldier. His hands had carried rifles, and his eyes had scanned horizons for danger. He had buried friends overseas, folded flags, and stood in silence at too many graves. The smells never left him: gun oil, smoke, and the dust of foreign roads. In his second life, he was just another man in an apron, carrying pizzas through suburban streets. Yet the past never truly left. It followed him in silence, woven into the way he walked, the way his eyes flickered at every sudden movement, the way he always kept a clear path to the exit. What made people underestimate him was his quietness. He spoke little, smiled softly, and let the world think he was ordinary. But inside there was steel no one could bend. That night, the address looked wrong the moment he saw it. Scrawled on the receipt was a street he didn't recognize, a number that seemed too high, too far from the rest of the grid. Still, orders were orders. He drove until the streetlights grew thin, until sidewalks gave way to weeds, until the houses leaned with age and silence. And then he saw it. The house at the very end of the road. Windows boarded, paint peeled, no car in the driveway, no porch light, just darkness swallowing its frame. He double-checked the receipt. Same number, same street. The instructions were clear. Leave at the door if no one answers. But curiosity, dangerous, magnetic, pushed him forward. He knocked once. The wood was swollen, as though it hadn't been touched in years. He expected silence, maybe a wind brushing through weeds. Instead, The door cracked open. A figure stood in the threshold. The man was pale, thin, clothes hanging loosely on his frame. His eyes held something strange, a mixture of recognition and hunger. Not for food, but for attention. "You're late," the man whispered, though Daniel was exactly on time. Every instinct told Daniel to leave the box and walk away, but his training told him something else. Never turn your back until you understand what you're walking away from. He set the pizza down slowly, watching the man's movements. The house behind the figure was hollow. Darkness stretched into rooms that looked gutted, wallpaper peeling, no furniture in sight. Yet Daniel swore he heard something deeper inside. Footsteps, faint but deliberate. Daniel left quickly, but unease followed him back to his car. As he drove away, headlights cut across neighboring houses. All were abandoned. Not one showed signs of life. Yet in his rearview mirror, the figure stood at the doorway, watching, unmoving, the pizza box untouched at his feet. When Daniel returned to the shop, he mentioned the house casually, as if testing the waters. Another driver froze mid-bite of his sandwich. "You got that address?" the driver asked. Daniel nodded. The man swallowed hard. "Don't take it again. That place isn't right." Another driver, older, leaned forward. "You too?" he said. "I've been sent there." "Same thing." Guy at the door. "Looks sick," says the same words. Every time. Daniel felt the chill rise. They weren't imagining it. Word spread among the drivers. The address came up more than once a month. Always the same order. Always the same figure. Always the same sentence. "You're late." Some refused to go. Others left the box and ran before the door opened. But no matter how fast they fled, someone always answered. The strangest part, no complaints were ever filed. No one called the shop to report a missing pizza. The order always marked as delivered. Daniel, though, could not shake it. The image of the hollow house, the silent figure, the unseen steps behind the walls. It stayed with him. For Daniel, the house became more than a delivery stop. It became a question. What happens when silence hides something wrong? What duty do we have to knock, even when the world tells us not to? And what truths live behind doors that beg to stay closed? He remembered the words of an old commander. "The greatest battles are the ones no one sees. The world never thanks you for fighting them, but they matter all the same." Daniel felt it then. This was another unseen battle. Not with weapons, but with choices. Weeks later, the address appeared again. This time, Daniel volunteered. He drove out past the reach of the streetlights, past the cracked sidewalks, until he reached the house again. It looked the same, silent and empty, yet alive with something unspoken. He carried the box to the door. His knock echoed louder in the silence. The door opened once more. The same figure, same pale skin, same hungry stare. "You're late." But Daniel didn't move this time. He stood still, box in hand, eyes locked on the man. The silence stretched. And behind the figure, in the deeper dark, Daniel saw them. Other shadows shifting, as though more than one person lived inside that hollow house. He set the box down, but this time he spoke. His voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. Some doors should stay unanswered. And with that, he turned, leaving the box at the man's feet. The next morning, Daniel told his manager everything. To his surprise, the man nodded grimly. "You're not the first. Police were called once. They found nothing inside. Just dust and empty rooms." Daniel felt a shiver. Empty rooms. Yet he had seen shadows moving. Word spread quickly among the drivers. The address became a legend. New hires were warned. Veterans shook their heads. Some laughed it off. Others lowered their voices when they spoke of it. But Daniel never laughed. He knew what he had seen. Weeks later, the house stopped ordering. No one knew why. Some said the city condemned it. Others swore the man moved away. But Daniel believed something else. That silence itself had won. That refusing to play the game, refusing to feed whatever lived behind that door, had broken the chain. "Respect the silence," he told another driver one night. "It's stronger than fear." The words stayed. They became something the drivers repeated to one another. Not just about the house, but about life, about the quiet battles everyone faced. Daniel never saw the figure again, but sometimes, when he drove past the far edge of town, he swore he could feel eyes watching from the shadows of abandoned houses. The memory never faded. The knock, the door, the pale face whispering you're late. But what he remembered most was the lesson. Not every mystery demands to be solved. Not every battle requires words. Sometimes the strongest act is walking away, leaving darkness behind its door. And so the legend of the delivery house lived on. A quiet warning passed from driver to driver, a story whispered on late shifts. Because in the end, not every door deserves an answer, and some doors should never be opened at all.